So thank you for joining us today here and addressing the graduates. I'm sure it's really exciting to be back on campus.
It was so much fun. It was really emotional for me. I graduated from here in May of 2000, and I haven't been back since my graduation. And so many memories have come back.
Yes.
So it's been a lot of fun.
So what are some of those memories? Any memories particular to graduation, or just classes, or walking around campus?
I just remember the intensity of the whole thing, and I just remember. I actually in my speech I brought up. I remember being in breakfast cookery class and actually being asked to cook omelets for the guest speaker, for the commencement speaker then, who was Chef Bobby Flay. And I remember being incredibly nervous making omelets in the president's office, and then I had breakfast this morning in the president's office, so it was pretty surreal.
How were the omelets? Did you have omelets?
I didn't get an omelet. I actually had to cook my own egg. I mean, it was fun, but I was I wanted a nervous student there making an omelet for me.
So you started cooking when you were 12.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about kind of your early experience, and what sort of attitude did you have when you first entered the kitchen at 12?
Well, for me, it was the idea. When I was really young, I would watch In Julia's Kitchen Cooking with Master Chefs, or any other cooking show I could see on PBS or what have you. And I just remember when I was old enough that I wanted to earn some extra money, I thought, well, I should probably try to get a job as a dishwasher, because if I'm a dishwasher, I'll have a good chance that they'll let me peel potatoes. So that was really the attitude. I just always was in love with cooking at a young age and wanted to break into it.
When people are looking for a mentor, what are some attributes that you would recommend that they look for?
I think you're looking for a model of what you want to achieve someday. So to that point, I mean, and that there's no rules to this, obviously.
Danny Meyer has been kind of a role model here for a lot of people on campus, and he talks a lot about maintaining this balance between your heart and your mind and your body and your spirit. And I think that there's becoming increasing evidence that as cooks we tend to kind of ignore a lot of the different aspects and just focus on career, and we're not quite as holistic. So you've obviously been incredibly successful, and you're doing a lot of things right. So what kinds of recommendations do you have, or what things do you do on a daily basis to maintain, any four of those things: heart, mind, body, spirit?
Interesting question. I think you're right. I think that particularly the path of a chef or people who work in restaurants, we tend to neglect other aspects of our life in order to be really great at what we do. It's a taxing business where I think 12 hours a day is kind of the base, and you see a lot of 14 and 16 hours. For me, it became even more interesting because once I shifted into actually owning a restaurant and operating every aspect of it, you kind of learn that you get very little mental time away from it. It's kind of always occupying your brain.
Right.
I don't miss sleep, which sounds strange. Like I still sleep 8 hours, no matter what. I still make time to shut my brain off and watch TV, even though like at one point that was like I was stricken with guilt doing that. But you kind of realize that the length of this. You kind of realize that it's a marathon, and if you don't, there's a difference. You can still be ambitious and pace yourself, I think, because the idea is that you don't want to burn out. I've had a couple restaurants for 2 years now. It feels like forever, just because of how difficult it's been. You start to realize it's nothing, but at the same time, if you don't remain healthy, or if you don't take care of yourself and you don't make time for family and these other things that are incredibly important, I think you might find that my fear would be that you're never going to achieve those goals, or you're never going to fill all 30 of those years.
Right. Were you able to maintain that balance even as a young cook at Clio and?
No, I did not. I mean, on Clio, Alinea both were very, very long taxing days. I remember, but it's different because when you don't own a restaurant, you can take your days off and you don't think about it at the time, but you actually don't have that much responsibility.
Yeah, right.
I wasn't married and at Clio, and I don't have children yet. When that happens, that's going to add a whole nother new dynamic to the thing. But no, at Clio, I remember working some 16, 17-hour days. Alinea, definitely the same. And I remember being tired often.
As you're hiring people, what are some characteristics that you look for in young cooks?
If someone has come to me because they specifically want to work with me, well, that person's going to be much more likely to be hired than someone who's just basically looking for a job and has never heard of my restaurant. And that's not an ego stroke thing that I need on my end, but it just shows that they're informed of what we do, right, and they somehow want to absorb that for their own purposes.
And they're dedicated to your mission there. I always love asking successful people what one of their most meaningful mistakes was, or an experience that you had that you feel like was really hard at the time, but now looking back, really helped make you stronger, was kind of a test in the fire.
Well, I suppose there's a lot. I mean, as a pastry chef, I didn't have a team under me. I didn't have anyone to train. Mm-hmm. So I actually because of that, I could actually make mistakes often, mm-hmm, and I didn't have the embarrassment of, like, oh God, I'm going to make this mistake in front of someone and I'm the boss, so I'm going to look foolish. But I've kind of kept that with me, where I'm not afraid to actually make mistakes in front of people. Another thing that I feel like it's not a particular instance or moment, but I realized that when I went into my first and even my second restaurant, I went into it very much with a chef's mentality. Mm-hmm. One of my mistakes when we opened Empellón was I just said, well, I'll take care of the kitchen and you people take care of everything else. And then retroactively later, I felt like there were a lot of things that weren't reflective of me or the way I think. And that trying to fix that retroactively is the equivalent of trying to fix an airplane that you can't land. Because the restaurants are open 7 days a week, you're busy, you have customers, you have employees, you have all these moving parts now. And it's not like you can just say, okay, well, we're closed for 2 weeks till we figure this out and then we'll relaunch.
Yeah. And what do you think are some differences between that chef mentality and a restaurateur mentality, aside from just making sure that you do a more thorough training?
Well, for me, I think as a chef, you strive to create something a plate of food that reflects your thoughts. I think a restaurateur mentality is you try to craft everything
an experience
to reflect your thoughts.
Okay.
It's literally every aspect of it.
Very cool. I guess just my last question: if 100 years from now people are talking about you, what would you want them to be saying? I
have my list of goals. I want to be the first chef to have ever opened a 3 Michelin star Mexican restaurant, because it's something that never existed, and it's something I think about a lot, and I still don't know how to build it yet. But that's definitely one of the milestones for Empellón. And after we figure out that, I'd very much like to open a Mexican restaurant in Mexico City. Okay. So if anything, 100 years from now, I would like to have been remembered as unpredictable.
Okay, cool. Great. Thank you very
much
for your interview.